Hi, my name is Ron Zombrano. I'm a partner and employment law chair here at West Coast Trial Lawyers, and I want to talk to you about the things that you cannot be asked during your employment interview. There are actually a lot of questions you cannot be asked, but I'm going to talk to you about the categories. So the most common one that people should know by this point is you cannot be asked about your criminal history either on an application or during your employment interview before you're offered the actual job. After you're offered the job, they can do a background check, and even then you shouldn't be denied. Chances are you should not be denied your employment, but they cannot ask you beforehand. Another category of things, they can't ask you questions about your mental state. They can't ask you about your physical state during the interview. They can't ask you about your age. They can't ask you about your marital status. All these things are protected categories. So for instance, a common thing is like, hey, what year were you born? Like, they cannot ask that because they'll do the math and then they'll be like, oh, you're too old or too young, and then you'll be discriminated against based on your age. Also, when it comes to your sexual orientation, questions like, hey, you know, you're married, who are you married to? Things like that. Those are inappropriate questions during the employment interview phase. Of course, after you're offered the job, after you're starting, small chat like that is fine, but basically those things should be not asked during the employment process, because if people find out, for instance, if you're with a very traditional interviewer and they find out that you are somehow LGBTQ, by way of answering those questions of like, who are you dating, who are you married to, they could then make a decision of whether or not they want to employ you based on your responses, which is really going to your sexual orientation. So what can be asked? Well, it's just basically, how do you do your job? How do you do your job, and why do you do what you do? Very basic things about qualifications. If they start going into your personal life, personal things, then those are really red flags, really, that you're about to be, they're trying to judge you on things that really have nothing to do with the merits. If you reveal that you're just married, they'll ask you like, hey, do you plan on having kids? That really is going to, are you going to be pregnant and on a leave for a long period of time anytime soon after I hire you? Those are things you want to be very, very cognizant about if people are asking you those things, because at the end of the day, we all want work, but do you really want to work for someone that you believe may treat you differently because of your protected class or your protected activity, and in this case, being pregnant? You know, you're interviewing them too. So if they start asking you those questions and those are things that you find to be crossing lines, then maybe you don't want to work for those people. But if you're being asked blatant things like your age, your criminal history, your physical abilities, or your mental abilities, those outright questions like that during the interview phase, that is a big, big no-no under California law. Some of these things can be asked after you are hired. Now, if you get an offer of employment, then they can go, okay, if you have a very physical job, you know, you're working in refineries, well, after you get the job offer, they can then ask you, you need a medical certification from your doctor that you are able to, you know, not harm yourself or others in case of an emergency in an oil refinery. Or if you're dealing with kids, you know, that you're able to lift kids in cases of emergency. But that is only after you are given the initial offer of employment. So most questions about your personal life, personal characteristics are absolutely out of bounds before an offer of employment. Some things, as long as it's related to your ability to do the job you're applying to, can be asked after the employment, including questions about criminal history. But criminal history is not an automatic ding anymore without violating the law. And it's a very complex process, which is good, because you want people that come out of the prison system to be able to work so that they have an opportunity to have a thriving life without having to make other decisions because they are denied work. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more notifications.